Thanks, Ryan, and thanks, Verity, for taking on my presentation time. And that means that I can be very, very brief. Well, the Resilient South, I guess you can say, is a bit of a sister project to the Western region. We share the same strategic reference group, so the state government agency group, and we follow some similar principles and thinking. We're also funded similarly. In fact, there is so much that's similar that I'm going to try and focus on what's actually different a little bit at this point in time. While the Western region has gone with separate packages of work, we've basically tended out for the whole big project, and as a result, we're now dealing with a very complex and multifaceted sort of program of different studies that will take part between now and into the next calendar year. You don't need to worry about that. So it's a 1.5 year collaboration. It's Marian on Brigham Mitchell in Belfast Bay. We've got Anne Gibbons and Maggie Hine here today. Otherwise it's Peter Smith in Belfast Bay. And we've got David here and Natalie Leo and Mitchell running with it. There is a very strong emphasis on engaging regional stakeholders, not community as much, but just organizations and key organizations across a bunch of sectors, which I'll show you in a sec. And we've got those 4 stages. Now, the project, I was brought on board last November. The project was awarded to Eyre Regional Planning Solutions and the consortium around them only a couple of months ago, so we're really just, it's very early days, and I haven't got much to show for it yet, so I'll just explain the structure and some of the key points that we're trying to emphasize. So that's the stages there. There's nothing really particularly groundbreaking about that. And it's the timeline, which I think is a bit similar to the Western region timeline. What this project is probably quite unique in is just how much we're trying to avoid past mistakes of projects which maybe didn't understand enough their constituents, the perceptions, the level of receptivity in the stakeholders to any messages about climate change, and even to the term climate change. We heard from Cecilia about vulnerability not being a good word on the Eyre Peninsula. Well, climate change is sometimes not the term to use with some people. Sometimes a changing climate is a better term. We've just learned that recently through some funny, isn't it? Yeah, so it looks like we are in the process of just trying to unpack what terms work better than others and really try and work with what's there rather than bombarding people with science and information and expecting them to then take on board the agenda and run off and implement adaptation actions, because we all know that that doesn't quite work like that. So we take that into account. We're trying to take into account issues of institutional barriers, which is now being investigated. I've just received a paper that's investigating issues of resilience and institutional barriers to resilience, and issues generally of levels of knowledge, ability to act. There's just some sobering statistics from the CSRO, which I'm sure you're aware of, trust in government sources, information about climate change, right down the bottom, along with oil companies and car companies, but we won't worry about that. This is the sort of trajectory that is leading our thinking, and that's what I think does make this project special. We recognize that information is just the first step, because then you have to consider how people associate that information to what they value, and therefore we're running values workshops to understand what people actually value in the region. And then there's capacity to act, and then there's actual implementation that really depends on incentives and institutional arrangements. I think I can close on that note. I just want to acknowledge that I'm sort of standing on the shoulders of giants in some respects, because the brief was largely written by me and Keith, and a lot of preparation work, maybe 2 years worth, went into this project before I came on board, mostly done by Maggie Hine and Gibbons. And as a result, this project really looks quite promising in terms of just how thoroughly all those issues have been thought about. Have a look at this one.
Yeah. Magnets.